Good morning and welcome. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and this is the fight to CPS and get your children back. Now, I see we already have someone that says hi. That's Joanne Androli, but she said hi, I think, looks like last night, maybe. Um, no, it's 063. That should be, well, it says PM. But anyway, Joanne, if you're out there, I say hi to you. You all are welcome. This is a live podcast from Southern California, and this is about how to fight the child protection services and what a horrible nightmare it has been to most of the people I've talked to. I've talked to over 100 people, and it's been very, very miserable. It's been very, very miserable. So I like to go over how this podcast works. It's interactive, meaning that you can call in at my business number 626-698-0990 anytime during this hour podcast. And if you want to talk, I can go ahead and let you talk. I'd love to hear your story and what happened to you in CPS. So call in at 626-698-0990. Good morning, Faye. It's glad to see your smiley face. Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky, and she is very dedicated to raise her son, but she lost her daughter, which is very sad. She sounds like a really good mother, and she does nothing more than take care of her son. Now, if you want to do comments, that's great. I love comments. And I'll try to answer your questions. All I ask is that besides your name, you say what city and state you're from. So, Joanne, if you could tell me what city or state you're from, that would be great. And then if you have a question, I'll help to answer out. So, with that being said, if you don't want to talk now but would like to talk in the future, I'd love to have you. I'm on here 14 times a week, 2 times a day, Monday through Sunday. I'm on at 10 in the morning for an hour Pacific Standard Time and 10 at night for an hour Pacific Standard Time. And you can pick a date, Sunday, Wednesday, Monday morning or evening, and all you do is email to my producer. She does a lot of hard work producing this podcast for me. Her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And email her and say you want to be on my podcast. Tell her the date or time, and she'll make the arrangements. You found this podcast through Facebook, and we're broadcasting on YouTube, and we're using the StreamYard application. And yes, I've been involved in CPS. I've been fighting them for 14 years, 3 of it when they took away my children. And it was a horrible experience for me. Now, I know that some of you have heard my story again. And, when you hear my guests, that's great too. I try to make every one of my shows different. I also try to introduce things that will help you, topics that I research, and I have them displayed, so I do that. Also, with the sprinkling of guests, it adds a lot to the podcast. I know that you're bewildered right now with CPS. They're not your friend. And that is the sad part about things, when they're not your friend. is really, really, really sad part about it. I'm afraid to tell you that CPS is not your friend. They are a quagmire of spaghetti. What I mean that is that when you remember the story of Alice in Wonderland, she falls in the rabbit hole and she goes through all the doors. She's completely lost in that crazy world of Alice in Wonderland. Well, that's what CPS is too. You fall in and go crazy. And I know it's hard that you have to deal with that. But I must tell you, you have to be careful. And there's some rules that I want to discuss with you. Now, CPS stands for Child Protection Services. It's a branch of social services set up by the federal government to protect our children from physical abuse and neglect, and also do family reunification. I cannot tell you how important all you parents are to your kids. Studies have shown that the best parents for children are biological fathers and mothers. Now, Faye mentioned that she was fighting for 4.5 years for her kids, and she only had 1 hour a week with my kids, never anything more, and it's always supervised. I think CPS has gone overboard, Faye. They take children automatically. They think children all the time are in imminent danger, and they think that children have to be supervised. They're dead set against the parent. And the reason why they're dead set against the parent is they want to make money off your child. That is the thing that I find that's common among everybody in over 100 cases, including my own. It's the money end of things. CPS is $1 billion business, $1 billion business. And it's so, so awful. They don't care about parents. They don't even care about children. They do what is called child trafficking. And child trafficking is illegal. But they get away with it because they say they're putting them into foster care. And why are they put into foster care? Well, we found the child in imminent danger, even there was none. Imminent danger. They mean it could be anything, you know. If someone isn't supervising the child, they're in imminent danger. No, that parent needs to supervise the child, needs to maybe take a parenting class. There has to be some help. But right away, they do imminent danger, and then they put them in foster care, and then you're at the dependency court trying to keep your children, and you're going to lose your educational and medical rights. You don't want to do that. They abuse all your constitutional rights and your civil rights. They are abusers. Good morning, Anthony1922. Check out Spike Cohen of You're In. Oh, wow. I like that, Anthony. Anthony is from Georgia, and he just shared that Governor, there's a meeting that Are the Power group, I guess, is get a meeting with Governor Kemp on Georgia, being aware to medical kidnapping in the state. Oh yeah, they really are. Video. We have Charlene McDade. Video will not play for me. Charlene, if you can hear me, I don't know what city or state you're from, but that'd be nice. But it should play. I don't think the rest of it. Faye, are you seeing the video okay? Are you seeing the video okay? You might have to refresh your browser. And worst comes to worst, reboot your computer, Charlene, because I think it is playing okay. Okay. Now, Anthony from Georgia is saying on Twitter, blasting all given Governor Kemp's post. Well, that is good. That's good. We need to be active fighting CPS. We also got to get our children back. Okay, Faye had to go in and out to come back in. If you're having trouble seeing the video, log out and then come back in. Log out, come back in, or do refresh. You know that the circle arrow on your browser. You know, refresh it, and that should make it work there. Hopefully, you're seeing this video and you're hearing me okay. Faye, do you see me and hear me okay? Faye's an interesting thing. They should be allowed to call themselves child protection services. When kids die in your care, that's not protecting. They should be made to change name to child placement services. Well, I don't know if placement services is good either, Faye, because we don't want them to place with anybody. We want to protect them. Charlene, is it playing all right? Okay, good, Anthony. Thank you. Okay. As I was talking about child protection services, they will alienate you from your kids. That's against the law. You're not supposed to alienate or use alienate from kids. That happens a lot in parent and divorce cases where parents are pitting each other to try to get the kids. Now, Faye says, but that's what they have to do, protect kids that are being abused, right? They are supposed to protect kids, but they don't treat each case the same. They're not imminent danger. Like in my case. You know, in my case, what I thought was a simple one. I had a perfect storm brewing. I'd lost half my retirement, had a predatory loan, and lost my job through no fault of my own. And then layman allegations came in from my in-laws that said my wife and I, were abusing our kids and not protecting them. And so it is saddening of me when this does happen. I unfortunately had another ending on the perfect storm besides child protective services hassling me. I had my parents who were dying, and I'd taken their belongings into my home because I could not afford to put them into storage. I was sorting through them and giving them back to family members. And I guess the furniture and boxes, that's what I was charged with, is neglect. Were danger to my kids. Now, I never known boxes to fly or attack kids in their bedroom. I never know furniture to walk up the stairs and attack kids. They could get around, and the kids were old enough that the boxes wouldn't topple on top of them. But they really exaggerated, and they used abuse of power and took my kids because they thought they're in imminent danger and put them in a shelter. And that's the worst experience. I agree, Faye. That's another approach. But taking kids every time a CP case is opened is not the way to protect our kids. My kids were taken that night when they came in, and um, I did not know about not giving permission to come in my home. But they went around them up. They rounded up at school. I had one child with me, but the other two were rounded up at their middle school and high school. And they were scared. They were taken to a block shelter, very unfriendly place to be housed. It looked more like a prison. And it was right next to the juvenile prison where juveniles were walking around in their play yard. Plus, there was a beehive that was stinging children. It was overcrowded. You know, they weren't protecting my kids. My kids had a beautiful room that they could live in. They were taken to school. They were loved, and they were given food. And they're familiar with their surroundings. So they take my kids from that environment to a very sterile environment, overcrowding, dirty. The food was awful. Um, it was terrible for the kids. Did not sleep together. It was overcrowded. It was unbearable. That's their idea of protection. They had my children in imminent danger with the juvenile prisoners walking around. So, um, child protection is posed to save your children. I mean, I shouldn't say save your children, to assist and help parents with their family. Maybe they could be called something different. I mean, maybe they could call the Department of Children's Services, you know, and that could be a wild range of things. Or they could be called Protection Service. I know. I think protection is not the right way, but anyway, change the name would help, Faye. I agree. Yeah, protection. Protection. How about protection services for children or children protection services? Well, that's what CPS is. Oh, God. Anyway, we need to do more than that, Faye. We need to campaign with our senators, our congressmen, women, our governors, even the president of the United States, and tell them what abuse that our children are in right now, and tell them about the illegal trafficking. It seems like every case I talk to, and I'm talking to over 100 of them, start off with the investigation, which they right away take the child. If a mother's having a child, just right after birth, CPS steps in, child protection, and takes their child. That's wrong. You shouldn't be in the hospital. That's privacy. The mother is entitled to have her child and be able to nurse and bond with that child, not abruptly take the child still with the umbilical cord attached and race out of the room. You know what traumatic effect that puts on that child? You know the harm that CPS is doing that? But they do this all the time. So many mothers, are having a child and they test positive because of drugs. Well, that can be addressed later. They're not doing drugs in the hospital. Drugs will stay in your system. It's wrong to do drugs. And the parents can be scolded. They can take program classes, but don't take their children like that. That is totally wrong. That's totally wrong. I know that firsthand. It's really, you just don't take children. You assist families. You help families. Like in my case, the workers could have said, hey, we'll help you with some funding for storage units and we'll get some guys for you and they'll take it over the storage unit. And that way you can sort a few things at a time. That's how they can help you. But why disrupt my family? Why ruin my wife and my sons and daughters? Why? What good is that to them? They are having problems still today. And the case been over since 2017. That's 7 years later. And my son has some bad issues. My young son who's trying to graduate from high school is struggling with issues. And my wife and I have been together for 32 years and we are far apart and it's so sad. It's so, so, so sad. I love my wife dearly. I love my family, my sons and everything. I want to take care of them. I want to help them. Yeah, I love the name Family Support Services, Faye. That's a good one. But I don't like the word placement because that leads them that they're always going to take a child. They shouldn't take a child. Maybe it could be called Children and Family Support Services. Children and Family Support Services. That would be really nice. Children and Family Support Services. No protection, no placement, just support services. Because that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be assisting families. If the families are struggling, they don't have a job, or they need a home or something, they should be assisting that family, not destroying the family. They love to take advantage of poor, low-income people. They like to take advantage of people with no education that are maybe homeless or have mental health issues. Why? Because as soon as they open a case, they get $20,000 a month per child. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And that's what they're solely in there for. Again, I remind anybody to come in the room that if you want to text something, please do so. I've had several of you text me things. Just list your name and then the city and state from you. And if you're from other countries, that's fine too. I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and Ghana text me comments in here. So I know child protection is a problem everywhere. It is a big problem. And it's a sadness because more harm is being done than good. More harm is being done than good. Yeah, Faye is a former foster kid too, so it is sad. It is so sad. Because what foster care, a lot of people don't know it, is that you just apply for it through the Child Protection Services, and I think they do a little orientation, and you're made already a family that can adopt a kid. Now, if you normally are trying to adopt a kid, it could take 5 to 10 years. So foster care is an easy way to pick up a child because you're assisting the CPS, and then the CPS is getting money every month because the case is still open. When kids are put in foster care, they'll keep receiving money to the child is 18 years old. And you'll probably say, nah, no, CPS doesn't make any money. Well, I got news for you. I know they are. In Orange County, I went to the Taj Mahal of CPS. It's an emerald green building like the one in The Wizard of Oz. And the director, I met him, and he was a worthless time because he didn't help. It went in one year, went the other year, and he was too involved with money because he had enough gold around his neck that he'd fall over. Or if he dumped in the water, he couldn't swim. Yes, the social workers are working for bonuses. My social worker did too. It's working for bonuses. All the time she'd remind me about her Gucci purse, or eye makeup, eyelashes, her clothes, her BMW car, all from bonuses that you get. And the sad part, she wasn't college educated or had a degree, and let's say in social work. She had no social work classes. I don't even know what orientation she had when she got hired on, but she wasn't a mentor. You need to mentor an experienced social worker for at least 10 years before you can handle cases yourself, especially if you're not married and you're single. You know, but that social worker was really, really, really tough. It was really, 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 really tough. Excuse me 1 second, okay? Be right back. I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm back. Um, Faye has written some things in here. She says 68% of the homeless population are former foster care. I never heard that. That's a high percentage. You mean of the homeless population out in the United States, 68% of them are foster kids? So if you have 100 people, that's 68 people are homeless and they're foster kids. And in Kentucky, some social workers are getting $100 a year, $100,000 a year. That's a pretty high income. I mean, why are firemen and policemen getting $50,000 a year and social workers getting 100? There's something wrong with that equation. Teachers and firemen get paid very little. In fact, we don't have a middle class. We have the rich and poor. We are like a third world country. We are a third world country. We are a third world country. There's a lot of issues. Why are people my age too old to work or say they were too old to work? There's a big thing right now in the country that our candidates are too old. Old people should not work. Well, old people have to work because they need to support their family. Social Security pays nothing. I've worked 59 years now. and I have a lot in Social Security, but they won't give it to me all at once. They give me to it in dribbles. They give the max amount of Social Security. Whether I live in Mississippi or in California, it's the same amount. Now, the cost of living in Mississippi is a lot less than the cost of living in California. Yesterday, gas went up another 9 cents or whatever. It's ridiculous. A month ago, gas was $3.75. Now it's $4.49. It's $4.49. Even in Maryland, gas has gone up. I hear elsewhere that gas is going up. What is raising the gas prices? I know it a lot has to do with the Saudi Arabia countries and how they set the prices on the barrels of oil. But it's wrong. It is totally wrong. And it affects everything. CPS is affected by this immigration crisis. There are so many people with an open door policy that come in the country that they're taxing all our social services. They get food stamps, they get housing, they get clothing, they get a job, they get free education, they get free medical. That's pretty good. If I am coming from another country, I get all those benefits. But there's a real bad disparity, and all I know is that CPS is not there to help out you parents. Now, I do talk about rules. It's very important about rules. Your important rule, and the most important rule, is to get an attorney. Now, if you're doing an open heart, if you need your heart to be worked on, or you need a replacement of a valve or something, you need open heart surgery, are you going to try to do the surgery yourself? Or are you getting a lay person to do it? Or a beginning medical student to do it? No, you're going to get what's called a professional who's taken classes, done, his internship. He has mentored another doctor and he's become a doctor capable of doing that. Well, CPS is the same way. You need an attorney. You need a professional attorney. An attorney that knows how to fight CPS and how to get your kids back. This podcast is produced by Vincent W. Davis Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California, and it handles all aspects of law: immigration, workplace, criminal, family, juvenile. It handles all. And one area that is what you're in, CPS is in, is dependency court. And that requires a family law attorney. And his name is Vincent W. Davis. We have one here. And he's a trial attorney. He has many years of beating CPS and getting kids back. He's also sued CPS on your constitutional rights being violated, your civil rights being violated. And right now he's offering a consultation of $49.99. That's $50 for 30 minutes. He'll talk to you. You need to talk to an attorney. You need to talk to an attorney. He's somebody that will really help you and set your mind at peace. I hired him, but I waited 1.5 years to hire him because I thought I could fight it myself. Now, you call in at 888-888-6582 and ask for a consultation with Mr. Davis. You also tell them that Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him the same thing. Bob Pace sent me. It's really important that you talk to an attorney about your case because you're going on something you know nothing about, and it'll get worse, and eventually you lose your rights, your medical rights, your education rights, you lose your children's rights, and they'll be adopted forever, and you'll be like all the other parents, sad when their children go. You see, I notice one thing. When people listen or ask questions or want to see their children, they still love their children. and they will do anything to get their children back. They'll complete the programs. They'll complete the parenting classes. They'll drug test and everything like that. So there is hope in there. And it's family reunification. I can't emphasize enough what CPS should be doing is family unification. Instead, they break you down. They break you down. They destroy you. They do child trafficking. They do alienation. They brainwashed. We had a beautiful girl that was born to us. She is so precious, so beautiful. We loved her dearly. But somehow she was coachable enough to listen to what the social workers say and her foster care parents to be adopted. Not only that, she was told by the social worker to divorce your mom and dad, to change your name, and to seal your birth certificate up like you weren't even born. CPS did that. CPS did that. We never could confront our daughter. We never could see her. My wife saw her for a little bit until they took away the visitations from her. And it was really hard. It's really hard. So, what I'm saying is that the importance of this attorney will save your life and save your children. And after you talk to me, you may want to retain him. You may want to maintain him. Now, as most of you know what your case is about, I don't know, that the common thing you all share is that if they're taking away your child, they're putting them up for adoption, they're in foster care, and they're ruining you as parents. That is something you all have in common. And all of you don't have the funds. And I know how hard it is. I had to sell my home to get the funds. I had to sell my home to get the funds. Now, another rule you should go by, rule number 2, is you need to get a notebook. And you got to organize the incidents that happened to you with your CPS. It's a CPS notebook. And in there, what you want to do is you want to list the date and the time of the incident and who was involved. Was it you, the social workers, the children, the police? You list them. And if you don't know their name, you can put policeman 1, policeman 2, social worker 1, parent 2, whatever. You need that list of people involved. And then you have to write down what the incident was about. They came into your home and took your children. You got to write what the incident was about. And then you want to do the outcome. You want to write the outcome of the event. What happened? It may not finish for a couple months or a couple years. And you can come back later and fill it out. And then you skip a couple lines and write the next entry. And then skip a couple lines, write the next entry. The reason why you want to skip a couple lines is you may want to come back and write some notes there. So it's a notebook for your use. It's a notebook to keep track of everything that involves with CPS. You won't remember everything. And if you think it's going to be over in a couple months, it's not. Typically speaking, they say a CPS case should be over in 48 days. The allegations got to be started investigated within 24 hours. But with allegations, I see there's a problem. There's a big problem with allegations. There are two types of allegations. One's by lay people and one's by professionals. And both of them are done over the phone. That's so loosey, that's so tacky. Because they can say anything they want. They can say anything they want. The lay people and professional should do it in writing and put the date and the time and sign their name that they say the foregoing is true. That would cut out a lot of the fake accusations. Because that is really where the meat of the problem in my case was, is that I had in-laws that were saying facts are not true. They're saying facts are not true. And that is a shame. That is a total sham. They could have done other things like offer the help. They don't do that. They don't believe what they're doing. Also, I found out that the policeman did a double whammy on me. Not only was CPS investigating, the police department was investigating us as parents for the same thing that CPS was. They're trying to do a double whammy. And what Child Protection Service says, well, when you get done with the criminal thing that they're doing with you, then we'll talk about your case. They put our case on hold for a year. Well, the city tried to make charges against me and everything, against me and my wife. And it was terrible. They make allegations that weren't true. They're trying to, and then finally in the end, they want to settle. They want to settle. And it's sad. It's really sad. I can't tell you how much it hurts in my heart what CPS has done to me and my family, to my beautiful wife, to my daughter, to my boys, my sons. It's a hard thing. Okay, welcome back, Faye. Thank you. Faye has something more to write about. She says, my advocacy is fighting to have anonymous phone calls to abuse hotlines abolished, making people report abuse here to give them their info because abuse is a crime. Our right to face their accusers. Anonymity prevents that if people have to start giving their info, a lot of these bogus complaints would stop. I agree with you, Faye. I agree with you. How it should work and how it makes sense. If there's abuse of a child in progress, you call 911. You say a father is beating up a child against the wall, or there's a physical altercation in the family, or shooting. What will come out will be police. They were trained and they'll assess the situation. If children are involved, they will call the CPS. And CPS will have the right to protect the children and put them in custody. But if someone makes an allegation on the phone, they're hiding behind a phone, they're not signing their name, and the stuff they're saying is not true. That's what's so bad. That's what's so bad. You're right. We should be able to face our accusers. We should be able to face our accusers. So I'm saying, if someone's going to make an allegation, it has to be in writing and it has to be signed by you and dated by you. That the aforementioned is the truth, that you're telling the truth. And by doing so, if you're not telling the truth, you're open to be accused. And I think with lay people told that, even professional people, that may be less abuse of CPS to get their ways. Like a neighbor doesn't like the way the trees growing on his yard or leaning over the things. Will do things like say something not true and report it into CPS. There's so many of that stuff going on. It's terrible. It is literally terrible. So that leaves me with the third rule. That is the rule that we say no to social workers, no to police. Do not let them in your home and do not let them take your children. I'm serious. They do. I would say 3/4 of the cases of children are illegally taken or stolen by CPS because parents don't know. When they see police, they're intimidated. They are very intimidating. There was a video the other day that I saw of 6 policemen coming on a CPS matter up the doorsteps, and they had their battle fatigues on, and they're very intimidating. And this guy was saying, "What are you here for?" Asking questions, his civil rights. He's trying to exercise his civil rights and his constitutional rights. And the police didn't like that. You could see each of them with their body motions and what they were doing and saying. So I'm telling you this, that if they come knocking at your door, don't open it. They can leave their business card, they can call and leave a message, or they can send you a letter. You don't need them in the house. You don't even have to pretend you're not there. Pretend you're not there. And if you happen to do talk to social workers, it's yes and no answers. Yes and no. But you don't want to tell them a story or give more information they'll use against you. I'm sorry, but you got to be secretive. You can't trust the police or the social workers. I did, and I got screwed big time. So, if they come knocking and they have a search warrant and it's executed right and it's a legitimate search warrant, you do have to let them in. Or to have a warrant to take your child, you have to let them. But that's the only exceptions. They want your permission. They have to ask for your permission. They have to ask for your permission. So, I've told you the 3 rules. We have about 10 minutes left of the show, and I encourage you with more comments to text in. Just put your name, the city, and state. Also, there's still time for you for 10 minutes to talk to me. And all you have to do is call 626-698-0990. That's my business number, and I'll put the speakerphone on, and you'll be live on the show. I mean, there's something else you can say or something I didn't cover. Because I really try to make these shows as interesting as I can. And one of the things I notice is that every state has a Department of Social Services. and the Child Protection Service is a branch of it. You can make complaints, but you got to find it in the Department of Social Services, the way you make complaints. Each state is different. I don't know if there's the same website called child support dot in the city, the two letters for the state.gov. I don't know if that works. California has that as child support dot california.gov, but maybe child support dot kentucky.gov. And you can report foster rights, foster youth rights. So the care is not up and standing. Now, concerns about child custody and visitation orders issued by the family court must be directed to the Family Court Service Office in the county where the orders were issued. Family court investigators, child custody evaluators, and family court mediators are available to provide dispute resolutions in each of the areas of your state. You can also complain about your social worker conduct. And you want to direct it to the director of the county CWS, Social Worker Service Agency, for resolution. You can make complaints about law enforcement officers. They need to be filed with the district attorney's office, the county's district attorney office. You can make complaints about judges for misconduct or wrongdoing. That is the state commissioner on judicial performance. So those are a few topics that I want to talk about. There's something that came up that was confusing to a lot of people called the Nuke Pro Trunk. And what is a new? It's a correction that's made for maybe a date was wrong, and they go back. It's a Latin expression which means now for then. In general, a court ruling non pro trunc applies retroactively to correct an earlier ruling. For instance, in California, the court has discretion in family law matters to order an entry of judgment new pro trunc, which makes the order relate back in time to when it should have been entered to avoid injustice. When a judgment of dissolution was not entered through mistake, negligence, or inadvertence, or was not entered as soon as it could have been, the court may order that it be deemed entered as of the date that originally could have been entered. So that's what that is about. Someone had asked me on that. They have something called an ombudsperson, a civil rights coordinator. Some states have that, but I'd be very careful about them because it seems like from talking to some of the people, it does not work. It's supposed to be a neutral party. It helps resolve complaints or answer questions about CPS policy, or practices. The ombudsperson is a liaison between CPS and the public. Yeah, I agree with you, Fanny. It's a bunch of social workers taking complaints on their social workers. I mean, it's kind of like um, the fox guarding the hen house. You know the fox is going to eat those chickens, don't you? So you don't want to put a fox guarding the hen house. There's another form called a 388, and I think it's really important you write that down. It may not be called a 388, but what is a 388? What is a 388? A 388 is a way of a mechanism for making a motion in the juvenile court. It's a modification request to change or show new information about your case plan. It's a petition. And you can make a 388, you can file it, but you gotta make sure that it's filed with the clerk, the court clerk, and the opposing counsels, the ones for the children and the ones for CPS. That you're requesting a hearing within 30 days to talk to a judge about changes in your plans or that you want to make changes. And so you need to use this form here, 388. It also is a very good tool for registering a clit. I mean, you have to click it on the 388 motion to see it expand. In detail, it says any parent or other person having an interest in a child who is dependent child of the juvenile courts or a non-minor dependent as defined in subdivision of the section 11400, or the child of a non-minor dependent through a properly appointed guardian may, upon grounds of change of circumstances of new evidence, petition the court in the same action which the child is found to be a dependent child of the juvenile court, or in which guardianship was ordered pursuant to section 360, which is the health and welfare code, for a hearing to change, modify, or set aside any other court order made. I can go on and on about the details, but you can look it up. But in jest, all it is that you want to change your plan. So that's when you want to file it. That's when you want to file it. A change of circumstances is what Faye says it's called in Kentucky. A change of circumstances. Well, I'm about less than a minute left, and I need to end my show. I want to first thank Faye for sticking it in, and all your comments were great. Faye from Kentucky. And I hope to see you again tonight. I want to thank a new listener, Anthony, who I think is from Georgia. He never did say, but I think he's from Georgia. And he has it where they're getting the Governor Kemp, they're posting things wrong with CPS. So I thank you, Anthony. Charlie McDade, I hope you got the thing to play for you. I still don't know what city or state you're from. And then there was Anthony 1922, who I didn't know what place they're from, but they said that they're the same one. Oh, that's Anthony. I'm sorry, Anthony. Yeah, they're from Anthony. They're from there. And so he mentioned about Spike Cohen of You Are in the Power is trying to get. So apparently, Spike Cohen of You Are the Power is trying to get a meeting with Governor Kemp in Georgia to bring awareness to medical kidnapping in the state. That sounds awful. Joanne McDorley, I think she's been on before, but she said hi. I don't know what state she's from. But I want to thank you all for listening, and God bless you, and good luck in the new year, and much success and happiness. This is Bob Pace signing off. See you tonight.